Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Naomi. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we pick up with Naomi talking to her parents, trying to get their side of things finally and understand their circumstances. Obviously, they are not part of the 29. In fact, they are just scientists who were hired to try and fix the tear being the disaster that struck, that ended up giving the 29 their powers and led to everything kind of falling out the way it did on Earth 29. And so, get a little bit more about Brutus. Just the fact is that, he is the person that you've heard about from Zimbardo, and we wanted to protect you from that. That man, our world, isn't what it used to be, and he basically ruled it with, an iron fist, and that your parents, which we knew them, wanted us to protect you no matter what if something happened to them, and it did. They're fairly certain that Brutus has them, and you're like, part of you wonders, is it a situation where we're going to find out they're actually the traitors amongst... I was like, you wouldn't think so, but I'm wondering, is there going to be something like that where it turns out one, if not both of them, are traitors, and they're actually working with Brutus? Maybe he brainwashed them or something. Because it was almost implying, oh, are his parent or her parent dead? I think it'd be interesting on the inverse if her parents, both her biological parents, were still alive. I mean, just like both her adopted parents are still alive. Because obviously, between Naomi, her being the huge Superman fan she is, there's the parallels between their lives. Obviously, the show is back to back with Superman and Lois. Both of his parents are dead on both sides. His biological parents, both of them are dead. He doesn't even have the AI of his, or Jor-El anymore, but he does have his mom, Laura, and both of his adopted parents, Martha and Jonathan, are both gone, so I think it'd be interesting to inverse it to make it so that both of her parents are actually still alive, so I think that'd be kind of interesting. We'll see how that, whether that ends up being the case or not, but Naomi wants to try and enjoy prom. With everything going on, having and at least enjoying this one last little bit of time without being able to forget about everything and just be normal, Especially because her and Nathan are in a good spot again after everything. So I love that Nathan was kind of like, oh, I wonder what's taking the girls too long. And Greg being like, oh, it takes a man should know when to not to rush a lady or something like that. And I love he's like, I'm in the military, right? And then Nathan's looking as Greg's standing there in his military uniform. So, but it was nice, and it is nice to see them with everything going on that they're able to just kick back and relax. Once again, Nathan's not in the know. I am curious to see what the aftermath of the whole Lourdes thing is going to be, because even once again, Annabelle kind of throws it in her face like she did last episode, being like, right, oh, you talk about things where you kind of accuse Nathan of stealing the disc, or the fact is you hung out with Lourdes and you send those pics to kind of make him jealous. So, because you also knows who else you didn't see this episode either, Anthony. So, right, I'm curious what that's going to look like going forward, whether that's going to be something we really see. Because part of me wonders, is it just they didn't write anything for Anthony, or is it could it be the actor who plays Anthony, could it's been filmed around the time he was also doing World Beyond, The Walking Dead World Beyond, because he was also in that. So I don't know if there was a scheduling situation that applied in that case or not. The Lourdes thing makes 100% sense, because Lourdes is going to be avoiding her like the plague after everything that went down. But we'll see if things can get better. They're sure as hell in an awkward position right now, especially because it's Lourdes is yeah, you know how I feel about you, and it just feels like you were using me, which I was kind of oh, was Naomi? I didn't realize that's what she was doing. I thought it was weird she was taking a whole bunch of pictures, but it's oh, that is kind of why. Whether she really consciously did it, whether she did it subconsciously, whatever the case may be. But the fun times kind of get cut short when it turns out, hey, there is a energy barrier around the entire school that no one can get in or get out. So the trio of Annabelle, Naomi, and Jacob are trying to find a way, which I love that Jacob's I don't know what's more impressive. The fact is that there's this barrier, or the fact I'm in the girls' bathroom. He's like, dude, it's so clean. And it's yeah. But also, while they're trying to figure this all out, and I think Annabelle and Jacob are such a cute couple. I love that he's just sneaking the entire time, like super low to the ground, and just Annabelle's just like casually walking. It's like we're supposed to be having fun. This is supposed to be the prom, and I'm here, like in the office. I don't want to be here, not only after school but also on prom. And then she's just kind of like, wow, like after everything that they're dealing with, she's like, I know this is probably what you expected from prom. He's like, no. He's like, it's actually way better. This is so cool. Like, we're dealing with the aliens and stuff like that. She's like, yeah, it is pretty dope. He's like, yeah, we're kind of like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but like alien stuff. He's like, yeah, but didn't they get contracts to kill? I also love that she's like, oh, classic movie night. It's like, yeah, you guys are teenagers. Legitimately doing the math. Y'all were probably like 1 or 2 when that movie came out. It's like, Jesus, that's kind of crazy to think about. Because I know the actress who plays Naomi is like 17. She was like 16 when she was cast, so she's like 17 now, if not 18. So I'm assuming like, I mean, that doesn't always, like, I mean, because even like Riverdale-wise, like when KG Apple was 19, the others were like already in their early-ish 20s. So they could be a little bit older than her, but I would assume not. I'd assume they're probably like roughly around the same age, or if not like a year or two younger than her, but whatever the case may be. It's like, man, you guys are kind of around that same age. You legitimately are. But it's like, oh yeah, that classic movie, Mr. and Miss Smith, which interesting timing to bring that up, just tangent aside. It's like, yeah, they are doing a reboot, a TV series of that. Because I know Phoebe Waller-Bridge was going to be a part of that. I don't know if she's still writing it or anything like that, because it's going to be her and Donald Glover. I don't know what the status of that is. Tangents and all that aside. But I love that it's like, he's like, wait, didn't they try to kill each other? He's like, Jacob's like, Annabelle, I would never take a contract that would make it so that I would have to kill you. And she's like, oh, I would never take a contract that would make me kill you either. And they kiss, and it's like, let's save the kissing and stuff, like, for, like, rain check on the kisses after we, like, kind of save the day. And she's like, yeah, I'm like, you guys are so disgustingly adorable. I love it. But obviously, as Naomi's trying to do everything she can to keep everything in line, keep everyone okay, the problem is she has to deal with Nathan, who is also asking questions like, okay, this is supposed to be our time just to spend time together with. She's like, this is what I want. And he's like, but is it? You know, and at the same time, we're dealing with stuff present day. We're also getting flashbacks to how Naomi and Nathan met. And this wasn't the... I'm jumping around a little bit, but I think it is interesting how we kind of come full circle in that regard of we saw where they started at and eventually where they first started dating before Naomi kind of broke it off at after 5 dates or something. And then like here we are finally after everything, all the truth's out there, and they have to break up anyway because Naomi has to do what she has to do to protect him and keep him safe along with everyone else. But he's got all these questions because he's like, right, like after the thing we went through, and it just feels like you don't trust me because you're not opening up to me. Because legitimately, the entire time I'm like, I still kind of don't trust Nathan. I'm like, is it going to be like some twist or reveal? Because the entire time I'm like, there's no way they're going to make this happen. But I'm like, you don't think he's Brutus or something? It's like, it can't be. It's like, or is he going? Because if he was Brutus or something, like I was like, not unless we're dealing with a sky high situation. You know, my girlfriend became my arch nemesis. My arch nemesis became my best friend. My best friend became my girlfriend. That whole situation. His which I always forget that his significant girlfriend then arch nemesis was played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who interestingly enough is obviously Huntress in Birds of Prey, and then Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, who's also in that movie, who was his best friend and became his girlfriend, was played by Danielle Pennebaker, who is Caitlin and Frost on The Flash. So just interesting how stuff like that works out. Tangents and all that aside, but my point was like I was wondering if it was going to be something like that. I went like a huge out of my way reference that, but I was wondering like could he like be making himself younger or something like that? It's like would they know what like that's what I was wondering. I don't know. I'm being crazy, but it's just like a conspiracy theory part of my brain just kicked in because I was like I don't trust Nathan. It was just he was pushing a little too hard, but it's like no, it's like right. Every time we kind of take a step forward, it always feels like we're taking a step back. So I can understand the frustration and Naomi trying to like. But she has too much to worry about. It's like, right, everyone's in danger at the school, so I got to put that aside. They try to reach out to D to let him know, like, oh, we're in trouble. But then the person who put up the barrier, his name is Julian, has locked him in, and Naomi needs to come to him one-on-one, or he's going to, like, hurt everyone in his school. That's what this is about. Going after everyone, not just the people she cares about, mainly them, but anyone, because they know who Naomi is. She will sacrifice herself for the sake of the people she cares about, but other people as well, because she doesn't want anyone to get hurt. It's your typical, classic superhero dilemma of surrender yourself or the people you care about, and other people, innocent people, will become targeted and will pay the price because of that. So then Nathan shows up, and she's reluctant to tell Nathan the truth, but ultimately she does. And Nathan's like, wait, you're serious about it? She's like, I'm an alien. I never wanted to tell you because I was scared that, like, what if you rejected me? What if you didn't accept me? And he does. And now it's like, oh, I love Jacob being like, yo, glad to have another fellow bro, like, on the squad. Now, and immediately, like, Annabelle's like, oh, it's a foursome. I'm like, no one's going to say it because it's this show, but I'm like, phrasing. But still, it's like, hey, more people in the loop. Once again, makes me wonder, will Lourdes and Anthony ever find out too? I assume so, like, because that's where the squad kind of started, so I think it makes sense for all of them to eventually know. So we'll see whether that ends up being the case. But they're going to try and gather everyone in a single spot so that everyone can be safe. And I love that, I love Annabelle taking the mic and kind of emceeing a little bit, being like, yo, we're going to have a special guest. And then I love that Esme is just kind of like, no, I'm not signing off on this. And she had to be like, no, it's not SZA. And then Annabelle taking the mic back and saying, it's not SZA. That's pretty dope. Obviously she's lying to keep everyone in there, but I love that bit. And then you have Jacob making, like, those snow cones, and he's just like, oh, those guys are snow cone savages, like all the ones he had to rush to make for everyone. But Naomi, while everyone was distracted, helping everything out, she goes off on her own to try and confront Julian. And don't really fully grasp what his powers are, because there's a clash between, like, what is powers and what is actually just technology. It seems like the barrier and stuff like that was technology, but he has that power where it seems like, I don't know whether, like, he's like moving his molecules in a way where he's like phasing in and out of, like, this, like, frequency of existence or something. Like, maybe, I don't know, he's just able to fade in and out like almost like a ghost in that regard. So I'm curious what, once again, like, they never expressly explain, like, everyone's abilities, like, because I'm still not fully sure, like, even from a science fictional standpoint, I still don't fully understand what I mean, to be fair, Naomi's got, like, every ability. This episode, like, expounds upon that, too. D is a little more clear just because I'm like, well, for all I know, it seems like the only thing you have is, like, your wings. So you don't have any, like, special powers other than that. I mean, I'm more familiar with the Hulks because of that, Thanagarians. People from Thanagar. But Zimbardo, I'm not 100% clear on his abilities, so... But regardless... And Naomi is in, once again, your superhero dilemma of, okay, you have a choice. Do you protect the people you care about who rushed off to try and find out where you were okay and got locked up? Or do you try and save everyone else? And even Nathan's like, yeah, the choice is easy. There's 3 of us and there's like 50 other people. So if we have to be sacrificed to save them, then that's the choice that has to be made. Because I thought it was interesting because Zimbardo, Greg, and... Jen and Dee were all working together to try and bring down the barrier around the school, and ultimately they went to Star Labs, but it turns out that was just a front. Like, it's like, oh, we want you wasting your entire time trying to deactivate the device because you think it's the one activating the shield around the school, but it wasn't. So Naomi was kind of still on her own. And ultimately, all she had to do was deactivate one, and if she made it in time, she could be able to deactivate the other ones, but she'd only have a second for it to, like, to register before, like, the other barrier vaporized it. So I was like, oh, how's she going to do this? I was curious, like, okay, so, like, what is it going to be? Super speed? Is she going to, like, what's going to happen? And it's super speed. I'm like, dude, you are broken. You are, like, Superman level status of broken, aren't you? I mean, granted, she's still in her young age, but I think she's picking up abilities faster than Clark did. I mean, most iterations show Clark's steady climb to his abilities. Like, even taking Smallville, for example, it took the entirety of this series before he actually flew. There was the whole thing of him being controlled by Jor-El that allowed him to fly, but other than that, like, he never flew, you know? Until, like, on his own until, like, the very, very end. So, and over the course of the series, he built up his other abilities until, like, he kind of got a master control of them all, just like Jordan's kind of going through that in Superman and Lois. I don't think he's gotten any new abilities recently, because the last ability he got was when he was sick and he got the freeze breath. So, But I guess like he's leaping in a single bound this episode. Spoilers, sorry. So borderlining on probably not quite to the flight yet, but it's just like leaping in a single bound is kind of where he's at right now. But I was like curious how they're going to handle that and her to do the super speed, which once again, like that is one of Superman's abilities. Like obviously Clark doesn't need to do that because he can fly, but before he could fly, had to rely on that running. I mean, that's how Clark mainly got around in the entirety of Smallville. But I thought that was pretty dope. I was like, yo, how'd that look too? And her like it's actually pretty freaking epic. I was like, once again, I'm crazy about super speed. Because of the Flash, I am a big fan of like I always liked super speed, but once again, until the Flash TV show, and very much like the Flash himself, like I like the Flash and super speed as a power, but the show The Flash made me appreciate not only the character of the Flash, but also super speed and what that expounds upon. Like all that like got even more like that. The show helped like me love both like that much more, you know. So it's pretty dope. And she didn't even know she could do it, but it's because slowly as time is going on, her powers have begun to expand. And it's like, Nathan's like, wow, it's kind of crazy. My girlfriend is an alien, you know? But it comes down to the sad truth, the harsh reality of it all, that Nathan, that feeling of, I wasn't able to protect you. And Naomi's like, imagine what it feels like to be the cause for all the danger. She's like, I could never live with myself if you ended up getting hurt because of me. And I mean, this is a whole conversation she had with Annabelle before, but things are getting more and more desperate because now it ain't even just the people she cares about. Like anyone can be in danger, especially the people she cares about, because because Julian already knew everyone's name. He knew about Annabelle, Nathan, Jacob, her mom, her dad, Dee, Zimbardo. It's like he knows all the important people in her life. Like maybe it's because they probably like communicated with each other and picked up on all this information about all the people that are in her life that she cares about. And so Naomi she can't be together with Nathan, but Nathan gets it. But he says that no matter, even if we can't be together, I'm always going to be by your side. You've always got me. I'll be there to back you up. You know, because he's like, your path, this destiny that's laid out before you is a path I can't follow. Like, you know. And I'm curious to see what that means when it comes to Jacob and Annabelle too, because they're going to want to like tag along, but Naomi's like, this is my journey. This is my destiny. Zimbardo's kept saying it over and over again. And even she's like, maybe I didn't want to accept it because she wanted to keep things the same, because ever truly accepting it means she would have to let go of all this, and she has to. But, you know, he's saying that I won't let go. And maybe that's going to be the turn of this, is that she thinks she has to let go, but by not letting go, she becomes that much more stronger. That's much stronger. Grammatically, that didn't sound right. She becomes that much more stronger. You get what I'm trying to say. My brain's a little fried at early morning recordings. Well, I guess late night / early morning recordings. But it's the friendship thing of like, right, with your friends and your family by your side, you're that much stronger. Once again, it's cheesy, but like that's my type of cheese. Like I love that. Like I love the sentiment of friendship and how great and how much stronger you are when you've got your nakama by your side. So we'll see if things kind of keep as they are, and when it's all said and done, will there be a Nathan and Naomi, or will they have to keep things separate? Like I said, it's just an interesting. I brought it up earlier how the other side of the episode, we saw the flashback of how they super didn't get along, and then they eventually did. They hit it off and found their common ground, and yeah, they grew closer. Once again, it's kind of the sad story that they have. It's like, yeah, they started off rough, got together, but then like Naomi broke up with them, and that's where we found them kind of in that in-between space at the beginning of the series. Then eventually they get together, then they kind of have an issue, but now we're together. No, we can't be together. So, but Nathan's the one that brought up the conversation of destiny. I loved his notion of destiny, saying that destiny and fate isn't an accident. It's not like just a coincidence. It's like, no, like being at the right place in the right time, it's what's meant to be. Like being around the right people and being at the right place at the right time is like, that's all part of destiny and fate. But nothing happens on accident. It all happens for a reason, because even Nathan's like, us being together, he's like, you had to be born, I had to be born, your dad had to get transferred here for a job, my mom had to get transferred here for a job, for things to work out like that. There's no way that's just like, oh, random happenstance. It happened for a reason. So it's going to be interesting to see where things kind of go from here. Once again, Julian is gone, but things are heating up, and the next episode, in fact, is going to be a two-part, back-to-back 2-hour season finale. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they ultimately end up wrapping up the season. Will we get to meet Brutus? Will it just be more of his? Will we get like a stinger at the end and get to see Brutus? Or will it be a situation of like will he actually pop up? Will we mainly just see his right-hand people? Because, like, Mac is one of his top lieutenants. Oh, no, Julian's one of his top lieutenants, because no one, like, Zambada was like, no one really knows too much about him because of that. Like, because even Jen was like, yeah, who's that? I guess they know enough of at least some of his people. They didn't know Mac, so it's not like they're well-versed in everything, but I guess, like, we would have probably heard some rumblings of Julian, but he's, like, one of, Brutus's top people, so. But I'm very interested to ultimately see where everything takes us going forward into the season finale. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.